Just 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you did. She just told me she liked my ring, and I said, well, that's good you gave it to me.
Was that they came over, the granddaughters were here, and they went through the jewelry box. It took
But I
took
didn't.
stuff.
She gave this to me for my birthday.
I think there's no question the reason our family is close because we are all Christ followers, and that's important. We pray together. We go to church together. And they aren't all in town, so we're not doing that every day or anything like that. It's an important part of our life. Well, for me, it's a chance to worship in a community. And I think that Christ made that clear, and God's made it clear that we are to be in community. And so I think, you can have your quiet prayer time and that too, and I think that's very important. But I think it's important that we are together with other believers. I think that's a big mistake, that so many people are so concentrated on themselves and what's going on in their lives and their own problems, and I don't think you can really be happy if you're so self-focused. You need to be doing something for somebody else. Well, I think it's important because somebody other than yourself can look at things a little bit differently and see things. If you're so wrapped up in a problem or whatever, I don't think you can be as objective as somebody from the outside can. Some change you don't have any control over, like getting old. And so, but some change you want to make yourself, and I think to have be able to go to God for guidance and to the Bible and to Christian friends that can help you and help you make decisions, I think that's really important. Well, I think for some people they don't even see that they need to, that they don't even see that they need to change. And I think for others they're afraid of what the consequences might be or what they're going to have to give up or take on or whatever. And I think some people are just lazy and don't want to make the effort because it takes effort to change. There is a fountain of youth. It is your mind, your talents, the creativity you bring to your life and the lives of people you love. When you learn to tap this source, you will truly have defeated age.
Well, regardless of what you're doing right now, regardless of where you are and who you are, there's something I can promise you. Now, I get it. Some people say that the only consistent things in life are death and taxes. But I think there's a third one, and it doesn't always get the props that it deserves. See, there's this point in life that most counselors say people struggle the most with, because they realize at that moment that they're closer to death than they are to birth. They call this a midlife crisis. But why is it a crisis? That's the interesting question. The reason it's a crisis is because it's typically the first time anybody thinks about everything that goes into getting older. Writer Douglas Copeland says, when you're young, you always feel that life hasn't yet begun. That life, quote unquote, is always scheduled to begin next week, next month, next year, after the holidays, whenever. But then suddenly you're old, and the scheduled life didn't arrive. You find yourself asking, well then, exactly what was it I was having? That interlude, this scrambly madness, all that time I had before. Have you ever felt that way? Like we're always waiting for life to begin, and then the midlife crisis hits and we realize, gosh, it started and I think I missed some of it. Because at some point, we see the things left undone. Things we missed, things we didn't do. And then we notice that each stage of life leaves something behind. As a matter of fact, age might be the greatest change ever. And it might be the one that we're trying the hardest to avoid. I mean, the plastic surgery industry booms. and new creams and medications and therapies promise to keep us young. And we dye every hair that changes to try and hide the evidence that time is marching on. We can't hide it forever. But I think we need to back up for a second, because it's not like midlife is the only time we notice the change that comes with getting older. We get more responsibility. There's a change of responsibility when we move out on our own. We can't live with our parents, or we don't want to live with our parents anymore. But that's a change. Of course, all change, as we know, goes through the same process. Stuff dies, stuff comes to life, and stuff can never be the same. And that's true about getting older too. See, aging is just a sign of reality. And what makes the change of getting older hardest for us is that we're not always the biggest fans of reality. We kind of like fantasy sometimes. We don't like the hard truths. And there's no harder truth than getting older. In the book of the Bible called Psalms, it's a whole collection of songs and poems. It says this: "As a father has compassion for his children, so the Lord has compassion for those who fear him." This is the cool part. "For he knows how we were made. He remembers that we are dust. As for mortals, their days are like grass. They flourish like a flower of the field, for the wind passes over it and is gone, and its place knows it no more." That's not something you want to put in a greeting card, but that's the reality. We all need to know we're all getting older, we're all going to die. And as we do that, stuff dies off, little things. As we do that, stuff changes. As we do that, stuff is never the same. We are all experiencing, in large and small ways, the change that comes with age. The other day, I tried to get out of bed, and my feet hit the floor, and then it was so weird. Nothing happened. Nothing would budge. It was like somebody was watching my life on TV and pushed pause. Have you ever felt like that? Like the knees don't respond, the hips don't respond. It hasn't always been that way for me, but now it is. Now, that's all bad, but some of the change that comes with age is good. I mean, I remember the freedom of getting old enough to be able to drive, to get my license, go hang out with my friends. But then along with that came the reality of gas prices and car insurance. I remember the freedom of renting my own apartment, having my own stuff and my own space. And then came paying rent and noisy neighbors. I know the freedom of having a few years of life under my belt now and a few gray hairs to show for it. But with that comes a body that I've beaten pretty hard through running a marathon and playing sports for most of my life. There is always going to be some stuff that dies at each stage as we age. And we don't want to deal with that. It's just too true. And it just reminds us that we're headed towards something we can't change. I just want to be honest about this. Even if you believe in going to heaven when you die, death is still a scary thing. So we just try not to think about it. But then we have these little reminders as we get older, and it reminds us that, you know what, you have to think about this. Not to mention that as we get older, we feel like we're out of touch with the stuff that's cool or relevant. We can get really caught up in the feeling of being left behind, forgotten. Nobody markets commercials to us anymore. Nobody cares what we want to spend our money on. So how do we deal with the change that comes with age? We need to acknowledge, first and foremost, that as we get older, stuff dies. There's simply going to be things we can't do anymore, physically, mentally, work-wise. We need to know our limitations. Maybe we need more rest, or we have to say no to staying out late because of new life responsibilities that come with getting older. Maybe we can't eat Taco Bell after 11 o'clock in the evening without paying for it the next day. We can't play basketball for 3 hours and not expect to feel it in the morning. We simply need to acknowledge that there are things we can't do anymore and know that it's okay. God is still with us. We are not dead. We may not like it, so of course we need to grieve it as it dies. But we also need to see new stuff coming to life, knowing that getting older does not mean we're abandoned or useless. Getting older means we've seen more of life. And as we begin to see more of life, we begin to understand what a guy named Solomon says in the Bible. He says this, he says, what has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There is nothing new under the sun. After a certain point of age, we've seen just about everything. And so we know from experience things like making the hard decision now is better than trying to fix things later. God is teaching us that. We have some wisdom that we can give to the life that we live. We have some wisdom to pass on to people who aren't as far along as we are. We also see that even though we can't do some of the things we used to do physically or mentally, we still have these amazing lives. God is doing amazing things in our lives, and we still have these amazing families, and we still have most of our health. We see new life coming as we learn to take care of the life we have now. No matter how old you are, no matter how much has changed, God is always giving opportunities for you and I to see new life springing up every single day. So we just name what's dying, and then we start to see new life, but then we remember that there isn't such a thing as a time machine. I wish there was. There's some stuff I'd go back and change, but there's not. Time is just going to keep going forward. And so as we age, we're always moving forward, and we can never go back. We can't pretend that we didn't get older and try to make our bodies or minds or our lives do something that they can't do anymore. It just doesn't make any sense, and God doesn't want us to do that. What God desires for us is to learn to be content with our life going forward. Just knowing that we've been blessed in so many ways with wisdom and understanding that comes with being older. And that just because we've changed doesn't mean we're dead. There's still more to do. There's still more to offer. The change that comes with age always brings some challenges. And so I want more than anything else to offer just a few encouragements to us as we start to process the change that comes with getting older. First of all, if you're in the 60 to 70 year old range, just want to offer you some questions. What have you lived through in your life? Take a moment and just look back. What are the things that you've gone through? What have you experienced? What have you survived even? And even now, what new things are coming to life for you? What things are possible now, even now? What are you doing with the wisdom that you've been given throughout the years? Who are you giving that away to? How are you using that in your kids, in your grandkids, and in your community? Now, if you're in the 45 to 60 range, what I would ask you is, what do you believe your legacy is? That thing you're going to leave behind, that inheritance, that presence that you leave to the world. Do you know what it is? Maybe it's still yet to come. What stuff do you need to let die right now that's just changing as you age? Maybe something about your position where you work. Maybe it's about your physical or mental abilities. What things have you missed out on in life that you just need to grieve over and then move on? What new or beautiful things are coming about in this time of your life? If you're in the 30 to 45-year-old range, where are you headed? Where are you going? What are you doing with this energy and this spot in life? And as you do that, what stuff is dying as you become more of the person God made you to be in this stage? What's coming to life as you enter into this season of life? Finally, if you're in the 18 to 30 range, what's alive in you right now? What are you passionate about? What do you find yourself leaving behind from your younger days, whether it's good or bad, either way? What are you leaving behind? And what are you going forward to live out every single day? I believe no matter what age or stage we're at, God goes with us. But I also believe He knows we need a way to honestly deal with the change that comes at each stage. When stuff dies, when stuff comes to life, and when stuff can never be the same. Because if we have that, it will set us free to find the good and the hopeful that He has brought about in every single stage and age. So may you find the good and difficult changes of aging to be a time of learning to let things die, learning to find new things coming to life, and making peace with the things that can never be the same again. This is what we need most when age changes us.
There's nothing worth more that will ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. Your presence, Lord. I've tasted and seen of the sweetest of loves, when my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for, to be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. There's nothing worth more that will ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. Your presence, Lord. I've tasted and seen of the sweetest of loves, when my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for, to be overcome by your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, you are welcome here. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for, to what our hearts long for.